What's up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, it is freezing. That's really cold actually. And I just want to get all this sort done. So, come on. He's tight, he's very tight. What I'm doing today is just tigging this up. Now, it's all tacked in place. I still need to do this little brackety jobby thing. I've got some stainless, some plate over there. This is what I used to make this thing. So we're going to make something similar to that as well. But I just want to get all this tigged up and dressed up and finished up. So the exhaust is basically done, or at least this exhaust is done. I still need to muck about with the this one. We are going to give that a go. But I need to sort out a link pipe. I can do that at some other point. But for now, I just want to get this all welded up, dressed up, back on the bike and bolted down. So that's what I'm doing. Like I say, today's Saturday. Sam's birthday is on the 12th. Today's the 10th. And we've got a few people coming around for drinkies and stuff later on. So I'm limited on time as to what I can get done in here. But I should be able to knock this out, I reckon. And it's just one more thing that's sorted, because I want to get onto them next. So, to the bench. And it's now started to rain as well. At least it's not snow, so it can't be that cold. There's been loads of people going on about, oh, go on, do us a video on how to TIG weld. No. I'm not doing it, I'm not qualified. Yeah, I'm not a teacher of men, I'm not a, this is not an educational channel. This is just, it's almost like a fly on the wall thing, this. But I will tell you a few bits and pieces that I do. I do this for a living. I'm basically a welder fabricator. There is milling and turning and stuff like that involved, but it's mostly welding and fabricating and stuff like that. So, first thing is, to get the result that you see on YouTube with that perfect stack of coins, right, you have to do tigging all day, every day, for a really long bloody time, and you need the practice, because that's how you get that good. There isn't a simple, set it to this and set it to that and just do this and it'll look like that video, because it don't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. So yeah, I don't TIG weld enough to be really, really good at it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But that said, you can get some pretty good results. Now, a lot of people think that this is like just a brilliant, brilliant weld. They think that's a perfect weld. Well, it ain't. It ain't at all. This is a perfect weld. It don't look quite so pretty, but it is a better one. Basically, I know all the stack of coins and everything else does look really, really nice. And when it's machine done that, quite often they just leave it like it, just because it looks quite decorative and people sort of like it, I suppose. But that's not the sign of a good weld. A good weld is when you can flat it all down and there's no pits and divots and nicks and like little pinholes and all that sort of stuff. That is a good weld. That's a proper weld. And that's basically what we're looking to do on here. All this, I just want to be smooth. I don't want to have the stack of pennies. I don't want lumps and ridges and dips and all that sort of stuff. I just want it smooth, just like a very weirdly shaped bit of tube. So that's what we're going for. You have to know what sort of material it is that you're welding. So is it mild steel? Is it stainless steel? If so, what grade? Is it alley? Is it, and all that sort of stuff. Because that denotes what filler rods you're going to use as well. You can Google what rods to use with what. I'm not going to tell you all that stuff, just Google it, it'll take you 2 minutes. But this is 304 stainless steel, which is commonly used for exhausts all over the place. Thickness doesn't matter, that's a settings thing, but filler rod is, so you need to make sure you're using the right stuff. And then it's just a case of getting comfortable, trying it out on a bit of scrap, which I've got over there, get some settings that you're happy with, get comfy and just crack on with it. Because this is stainless, we are going to be back purging it. So I've got a back purge valve on top of the cylinder, and this black one, this black hose, he comes off, essentially it's just a tap that I can open and close. So the white hose on that picture goes down to the welder and gas comes out the end of the torch thanks to that one. This black hose is linked up to there and I can basically stick that wherever I want. So the idea is that you basically bung up one hole, shove that in the other, and you basically purge the whole thing with gas. You quite hear back purging? Well, that's what this is. But essentially you want to fill the inside of the tube with argon. TIG welding, you just use argon, it's not a mix. Well, that's what I'm doing anyway. There are funky mixes that you can use, but it's basically argon. So he goes in there, we'll block up the other end, pretty much seal that one. Some gas will escape where you've got joints, so I've got some, I did have some, oh bloody hell, where's that gone? Hang on. It's here. Right, so this is basically just adhesive copper. It's basically copper that's got a sticky side to it. You peel the backing off and you can just stick it on, and I'll just use that to go over and, you know, go over the joints. And as I want to weld a bit, I'll just peel a bit of this off, weld it, peel the next bit off and keep going. It just means you're not wasting loads of gas basically. You need to get the argon in there and you need to have the whole thing full, because otherwise the back of the weld will oxidise. It will all go black and it almost looks like crystalline and stuff, but basically it's weak as hell. You don't want that. You want it to essentially look like the weld that you got on the top basically. That's how you want it, all nice and clean. Argon is heavier than air, so you know, if I've got the hose in the top and this at an angle, this one's going to fill up first, so I'll be doing that weld first, and then this one, and then that one, and so on and so forth. You're never going to get an air tar seal, especially when you just shove a rag down the end of it, but you know, it's what it is. You have to back purge it, otherwise your weld is just compromised. You might as well not have done it. But there you go. I do run a pedal just because you can get that control. There are all sorts of different torches and stuff that you can get. But if you haven't got a pedal, you can control the amount of heat you're putting into it with this, as well as the temperature set, you know, the voltage settings and all that stuff that you've got, power settings. But because you have an up slope and a down slope on your welding, if you come off and on the button, depending on the settings you've got, obviously the arc doesn't go out. So if you think you're running too hot but you really want to finish that last little bit, just come off and on the button. It's an easy way of doing it if you haven't got a pedal. I just like a pedal though. That's it. It's a really basic setup. Stainless takes bugger all heat to melt. It's not like, well, steel takes more, aluminium takes an awful lot more, and it is hammering down. It is proper chucking it down now. Oh bloody hell, I bet he hasn't fixed the hole in my roof. So anyway, that's pretty much it. It's all you need to get going really. That's all the information you need. And then you just need to sit down and practice. Practice, 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 practice. It will take you a long time. You know, don't expect to be knocking out perfect welds within a few minutes of starting, because you ain't gonna do it. Anyway, then we get set up and then we'll start sealing some of these holes up and we can get an exhaust done. Right, it's basically set up. Basically. Using a rag in the end is probably not the best idea, but the bungs that I normally use, these jobbies, they're too small. What would ordinarily happen is I've got one of these that goes in one end and one with a hole in for the other end, and that hose goes through this hole and you just seal it up that way. Trouble is, I haven't got one that's the right size. Don't really want to use tape, but I've just shoved a rag up its end beforehand and it's all been fine. Not a problem. We'll just have to see how we go when we're welding this one. It's been purging for about 10 minutes and this is elevated. So we've got a rag in this end. It's taped at that end. That end ain't even going to get hot, but I have poked a few holes in it just to let air out. So the idea is that as argon comes through this black line, goes into the hose which comes down to about here. So we're on the downward slope, if that makes sense. Then the argon comes in, the air gets forced out because argon's heavier than air. So this lot here, it should just be full of argon, and that's peachy. And all we're going to do is pull a bit of tape off, do a little bit of a weld, rotate it, pull a bit more tape off, do a bit more of a weld, and away you go. Before I stuck the tape on, I did clean it down with acetone, and I've also cleaned the rods that I'm using with acetone as well. Just the cleaner you can get, the better, basically. I've got my TIG set up, so really it's just a case of getting comfy, get my head down and get some welding done. So that's what I'm going to do. Right, let's peel a bit of tape back. This is like really low tax stuff as well. And the copper's quite good, because if you just tape this up with like insulation tape or something like that, because it's plastic, you put a bit of heat into it, it's just going to melt onto whatever you're welding, and it ain't going to be great. Right, let's get you on and get welding. Fine, so once you've finished your welding, obviously turn the purge off, you don't need that anymore, and just let the thing cool down. The welds that I've done, they're actually quite dull. They're not bright and shiny and all the colours of the rainbow and everything else. What I should be doing is running it a little bit hotter with a bigger, like 50 amps, something like that, but with a bigger cup and slightly more gas, and then you'd get all the colours of the rainbow. The welds I've done are absolutely fine though, and I haven't got a bigger cup because I stood on it the other day. There's loads of penetration there, it goes all the way through. I'll get a picture and I'll show it to you, just so you can see. It's not a perfect stack of dimes, you can see the dabs, and you know, they're not all even or anything else. But I want to grind all this back so it's smooth. So to be fair, I am piling it on a little bit. Where you do TIG and you're just going to leave it, you tend to get like a little bit of a dip with each of the things. So if you was to grind it down, it wouldn't necessarily go completely smooth. So just by putting a bit extra on, I've got something to grind down, and we can try and make it all nice and smooth and everything else. So that's what I'm doing. When I first started, yeah, okay, let's go through this. When I first started welding, basically I just got myself an outfit, I watched some YouTube videos and I just had a go, right? Training didn't come until later on. And to be fair, you can get very good just by having a go and practicing and practicing and then practicing a bit more and all that sort of stuff. It is one of those skills that you need to do quite a lot to get really, really good at it. I don't do enough TIGging. So, you know, I can't do the machine perfect welds and all that sort of stuff. But I can stick stuff together good enough that you can grind it down and make it look lovely, and there's loads of penetration and it's a good strong weld. MIGging's a different story, that's a lot easier, but you know, you do have to practice with TIG. So you can learn just by watching YouTube and having a go. The best way ever is go to college, do a night class, right? They will show you how to do it properly. It don't cost that much either. I think it's like 300 or 400 quid, something like that. And you get a certificate at the end of it and all that sort of stuff as well. But if you want to learn how to do it properly, go to college and do it that way. If you just want to have a go, you might surprise yourself. You never know. Right then, start dressing it up and make it look pretty, eh? There is enough on there that I can grind it down. I don't think we're going to have any dips and divots, but there might be the odd like low point, so you just have to go in and put another dab on it, let it cool off again, and then grind it back. This bit here, that's where the old bracket was. I can take that down, that's not a problem. The only trouble is this was joined on a mandrel bend that was cut at an angle. The trouble is with a mandrel bend, when you cut it, even if you get your angles right and everything else, because it's all under stresses and strains, it's not necessarily a perfect circle. Not all the time anyway. So there might be a little bit of a ridge here, I don't know. Once we dress it back and have a look-see, we'll have a look. But this is the outside of the pipe, that's the bit that you're gonna see. The ridge is gonna be on the inside here. Trouble is, I'll know it's there, so I'm probably just gonna go back and fill it in and keep dressing it down until it goes. I don't know, we'll just have to see how we get on. Right, get me, oh, where's my peepers gone? Oh, where's my specs? Oh, bloody hell. Right, there is quite a lot more cleaning up and stuff to do. It does look a lot nicer. This was a little bit of a threepenny bit. Where I've had that, I've got like a belt sander attachment that goes on an angle grinder. Trouble is, it is just ferocious, this thing. It really, really is. And because just the way you want to use it, because it's all sprung loaded, you kind of want to go up and down the tube. Trouble is, you're actually taking off quite a lot of material, and it turned this bit into a bit of a threepenny bit. So I've been going over it with the DA just to flatten out some of those ridges and get it round again, which has all worked out quite well. But I've got to go over this joint here and this joint down here again, just because I can still see the faint line. There is that ridge that I was telling about, sort of around the back, so that is going to need to be filled in and dressed down again as well. But at the end of the day, that can all happen when we're down to the final build and stuff is going on for the last time. So I'm not too worried about that. Not just yet, anyway. Right, where's my pen? Okay. So we are going to want something that comes off the back of that, like that, pretty much in line. Alright, so stick a hole in it there as well, like that, and the foot peg can bolt on from the back of that too. And that's it, it's a tiny little bracket, tiny little thing. I'm not even going to bother boxing it in. Stainless is actually really tough. On a little short thing like that, with like a 30mm weld across the bottom, we ain't going to need to box it in. So that's what I'm going to do. However, for now, I need to chip off because we've got people coming round and I need to get cleaned up. But I'll be back. That looks all right, I reckon. Oh no, a bit more. I've been mucking about. I have sat on it. I've had both the balls of my feet on the pegs, and then I've also like slid my foot forwards, like I'm using the back brake and stuff. Your heel doesn't clobber the exhaust, and I've got like, well, size 11 hoofs basically. Not a small feat. It's certainly no closer than like the Fireblade or the R1 or the RSVR that I've had in the past as well. So, you know, I'm quite happy with that. I'm still undecided about whether to clamp it or not. I've got some stainless rod. This is 3mm, just like that. And I've also got a couple more springs just for, you know, holding the tail section of the exhaust onto the collector. But I don't know, I am tempted to clamp it just because it's a proper firm like that rather than just giving it a tug. So I may well get a clamp just to try it, just to see what it looks like. If it turns out too bulky, then I'm not using it, I'll just go with the springs. But, you know, I mean, it's pretty solid. It's not going anywhere. There is a big overlap where that tail section joins onto the collector, so it's all good. As far as tigging the bracket on, I still back purged it yet again, purely because you are joining something to the tube and there's air on the inside of the tube. It will oxidise, and that is a supporting bracket. It might only be a little diddy thing, but I still back purged it anyway. Loads of penetration. I'm not dressing that weld up. You can't even see the thing with the foot peg in the way. So it's all good. So tigging, it is a bit of an art. It is a bit of an art. You do have to take your time to learn it, and you do have to do it an awful lot to get good at it. I'm not as good as I want to be. I do want to do a bit more. But you know, it's one of those things where it's like opportunity more than anything. I I've got an awful lot of stuff to be getting on with, and it all needs doing, so I don't really get to sit around and play that much. But anyway, there you go. You want to learn how to TIG? Go to college, get an instructor to show you, and then just practice, 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 practice. There's loads of really good YouTube channels out there actually. Welding tips and tricks. Fella called Jody, he is American, but we won't hold that against him because he is a blinding welder, really, really good. And then you get people like Kane Kid, all they do is the pretty welds. But they are very, very pretty. He was like tigging along and he was chatting with a fella and he goes, what colour do you want it? And he goes, oh, blue. And suddenly his weld changes to blue just because the amount of heat he's putting into it. He goes, no, I meant yellow. And suddenly it changes back to yellow again. It is so cool what you can do. But, you know, you have to practice. That's an end to it. You have to keep going and not stop until you get it right. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it for this one. Thank you ever so much for watching. I do hope you are staying safe. We'll see you on the next one. Laters!